better come my way. I'ma make a statement day by day. Y'all better come my way. Y'all better come my way. Okay, and say, y'all better come my way. I'ma make a statement day by day. Peace out, up. Put them in the air, ain't gonna rise up.
Welcome to Jam Pack, where we try to jam pack as much as we can in the amount of time given. I'm your host, Jamila, and let's just be real. It helps me stay accountable on time, and it just joins with the games. It is what it is. Y'all, I have a super special, amazing, let me say it again, amazing treat for y'all. But before I get into who we have for y'all today, aujourd'hui, it is rare that I will pull out my French because I am that excited right now. Make sure you follow on Instagram at JamPacked Show, as well as on YouTube, youtube.com/jampacked. Also on Twitter, also on that Clubhouse life. So if you see me in these Clubhouse streets, make sure to ping me into some shenanigans and some good conversation as well. You know, I like a little balance of both. Y'all, our treat is so amazing. She is the founder of the nonprofit Pride and Joy Foundation. The Pride and Joy Foundation is dedicated to reducing the rate of suicide and homelessness in the LGBTQ community. She is also working to improve LGBTQ plus inclusion at work and build self-awareness and safety in LGBTQ families and their allies. Y'all, you may have seen her in the very, very viral TEDx talk on how she survived conversion therapy, which has been viewed 40,000 plus times and landed her media and speaking opportunities with ABC, CBS, Fox, Boston's First Event, and Seacoast Wellness Series, as well as Thrive. She's an inspirational LGBTQ plus speaker, a trainer. Y'all, she is a Mormon mom of 4 who lost her marriage, her church, and her community when she came out as a lesbian. She recently joined the publishing world with Pride and Joy Publishing, the only LGBTQ plus publisher of solely LGBTQ plus empowerment and business books. She's out here doing the thing. Y'all, I'm so freaking geeked. She didn't have a glass of wine until she was 39. And she says she has literally never played a drinking game in her life. I am beyond geeked. This is the first time she is ever playing a drinking game aujourd'hui. Joining us from Arizona, folks, I bring to y'all Elena Joy Thurston. Woo!
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Wow, that was amazing. That was the most amazing introduction I've ever had. I'm going to have to hire you. You're going to have to come on every Zoom call. And
let's do
really
it.
Just, yes.
Let's do it. I'm down. Thank you so much. Listen, I am thanking you for being here. This is such a treat on so many different levels. And your journey alone is really, truly remarkable. That, you know, I was telling my wife that I'll be, you know, speaking with you, and she was like, oh my gosh, like that's going to be such a great conversation. And, you know, I she kind of wanted to ask questions, and, you know, she's had her situation with religion, and, you know, and then the carryover to her mom, you know, not coming to our wedding. Like, I've spoken about it before, but religion really does play a huge part in our methodology and the way that we approach life and the way that we communicate and interact and the friendships that we thought we had and that we had. Like, it's a whole thing.
It is.
I'm really, really geeked for you to be here. And I apologize for already just talking a million miles a minute because I'm so freaking geeked. This is a treat for sure. Awesome. Oh gosh. Yeah. Thank you for being here. And your drink of choice, I know we were kind of talking about a sangria, but turns out we're both going to a baseball game after this. Pride night. Yeah. Right. Crazy enough, I'm wearing my my Dyke beer t-shirt. but but
I think I just found Dyke beer. I feel like I have to go to New York City and get some because otherwise I'm not a real lesbian.
I should play with my Dyke beer. I had a fairy godmother drop some off, and I was just like, man, I only have 2 now.
No,
Before
you gotta
I had
save
one
that.
for the show, and I'm like, I want to savor this. Like last time I opened it, I had to share it with the wife. She was like, this is so good. And I was like, listen, I'm all about sharing, but this beer is so good. I wish I had another one on deck. So yeah, like when I heard Pride Night, I'm always like, did somebody say Dyke Night?
Okay, that's hysterical because the game I'm going to is the Diamondbacks tonight in downtown Phoenix, and it shares the area with the Phoenix Sun Stadiums, which of course is also where the Mercury play. And tonight the Mercury is having their Pride Night game. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't every night for the Mercury Pride Night? Like, isn't that a little redundant?
Right. They're like, no, we're about to be super fucking gay out here and love every minute of it. Like, oh, I went to one Mercury game, and that's where I met Brittany Griner because she knew some of my friends. So I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. And so I love that they have Brittany Griner. Diana Taurasi now is a little bit more open with her life. She was keeping it close to the chest. She was protecting it. I get it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Especially with her background down at U of A and everything. Like the people here have watched her a lot, so
yeah. Well, she's a UConn alum.
That's right.
But I think they may have played U of A, but I know the championship is a different level of beast mode. So I get it. Maybe U of A probably played UConn, but
yeah, there was definitely some drama there.
And she's a LA Orange County, IE kind of gal. So it's she's
good times.
She's a beast player for sure. I mean, just a fun fact. I used to go to Sparks games and cheer for her. So there
you go.
That's how gay my days have been at WNBA games. So your drink of choice is beer. I low-key pre-made homemade sangria. The fruit is in the orange juice and the red wine. But then I also figured we could pre-party together, followed by some beer, because I am not going to use my Dyke beer today.
This is not the day.
I feel like it, it's like you have to wait for that moment where you're this is that moment. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. So we can play a little bit of the interrogation. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, dun dun dun. Before they get to know you and your, I'm speechless at the word that would go before journey because you've been through so much. But let's play a little bit of the interrogation. And I saw this one question and I thought it was interesting, so I'm going to ask it. Okay. So if you answer, I've got to take a drink. If you don't want to answer, you don't feel comfortable to answer, then you would just ask for your attorney and then you'd take a drink of your beer. Take a sip.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
So, first question.
Okay.
Do you believe in God?
Whoa. I do not believe in the Mormon God.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's like a whole, that's a whole story in itself. But I thought it was an interesting question.
Yeah, and people definitely have asked, where is your faith now? What are you doing with this? And I had to replace it with something that felt aligned with me. Otherwise, that's just too big a hole in your soul. I mean, the thing about religion is it's for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people, it's in every different part of their brain. It's not just a Sunday thing. It's in what do you eat? What do you drink? What do you wear? The words you say, the words you don't say, right? What do you say right before dinner? What do you say right before you go to bed? What do you say when you get up from bed, right? Like it's in all those aspects. Who do you date? Who do you not date? Like all those things. And so when you try to deconstruct from that, you're deconstructing from all these different parts of your brain. So you have to replace it with something. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. So I replaced it with science. Shocker, I know.
Right. Science.
Yeah.
The science is going to be a theme throughout this episode. just a heads up.
Yeah. So I really got into studying like quantum physics and this concept like with the observer effect and this concept that really they've proven there are multiple dimensions that are all happening at the same time. And with every observation, another dimension or reality is basically created. And so I really liked the concept that there are lots of different versions of me making all different types of choices. And there's one version of me that is the most evolved and is the most like spiritually aligned. And so I can align myself with that version of me. So I guess, is that God? Yeah, I'm going to go with that's God. Like that's who I'm praying to. And I know that I can look back at my 15-year-old self, my 22-year-old self, and I can love on them and I can send light and love and energy to them. And I know that the other versions of me can do the same thing back to me. So, is that ancestors? Is that just energy? Or is that religion? Who knows? But I do know that that's my version of God.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. All right. Next question. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Gosh. Okay. Would you eat a decomposing rodent if it might save your loved one's life?
Well, yes, but gross. No, like if it was my girlfriend or my kids or my sister, like that's probably it.
Yeah, there's a handful of people you would do that for. I agree with that. I feel that.
Yeah,
and there's probably not that many. It's probably my wife and the kid, and that's it.
Right.
Everybody else, you've lived your life.
That's right. Like you're done. You're done.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Next question. And I have been taking drinks, y'all.
I know.
If you need physical evidence, physical proof, go to YouTube, youtube.com/jampacked if you'd like to watch it. All right. Next question. Would you chew food and feed your significant other like a bird if they needed it?
Wow.
These are some weird questions, but you're like, technically nothing's really off limits.
Oh, man. That's harder. I'm going to take a drink.
I mean, it's not going to go in your mouth, right? Because, it's going out of your mouth into their mouth, right? So it's like...
I guess if there were none of those like gagging noises, like those like, then I think I might be able to handle it. If the auditory is in there as well, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a little bit much. I was watching like the I think it was the challenge, like All-Star Challenge that they have with like the old school like real world road rules folks, and they were doing a challenge and it was the final, and I was eating, and then they were at a part where they were eating just random pieces of random meat, like they didn't know, they were like, oh, this could be a pig snout or a pig tongue, but it looked nasty, and so but they were trying to eat it and they were like I was like, I don't know if I can eat anymore now. I was fine just watching you do it, but the auditory is really, that's what really messes with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That'll get you good right there.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it will. But, I really want folks to get to know you and your journey and where you come from and all of it. You joined the Mormon Church at 16. You were married young, which is encouraged in the Mormon Church. So you were married at 20. You started having babies at 22. You had 4 kids by 32. And then your youngest went off to school. And you had thoughts you were making that were making you very uncomfortable. And you try to distract yourself. You try to distract your mind because you didn't understand why you were uncomfortable in your thoughts. And when you had this, you felt that way because you had this quote unquote great life. And so you couldn't understand why you were having these feelings of discomfort. And then you tried weightlifting 6 days a week and still had too much time on your hands. And then you started doing long distance running. And you were still feeling unsettled. And then you discovered fly fishing, where you have to be present. You can't be thinking about other things. But this was such a heavy truth to confront internally, let alone doing it externally. Can you break down for the folks these thoughts that were having you feeling unsettled and what happened next?
Absolutely. So I was so ashamed that I didn't love my life because I knew exactly how privileged it was. Like, I knew I was living an upper middle class life. I was in an incredibly safe neighborhood. My husband had an abundant income. I drove the minivan. He drove the Tesla. Our neighborhood literally had white picket fences around it. Okay. Like that. And so I knew we had health insurance. Like that in and of itself, like puts you in a different life experience. And I was highly aware of that. And so every time I would hear my peers, like the other stay-at-home moms in the neighborhood, kind of whine or complain about something, I would always be hyper judgmental of them. Like, what do you have to complain about, really? And so when I would hear the whining in my own head, I was ultra judgmental of that as well, right? And so unfortunately, that prevents you from asking yourself the questions of like, well, what exactly is it? What is going on here, really? Because I would just nip it in the bud and be like, oh, you little princess, stop it, you know? So by doing that, not only was I tearing myself down, but I wasn't figuring out what the hell the problem was. And so I went through all of these different, I think it's hysterical and fascinating that in order to get in touch with my body, I had to go through these really crazy intense sports. I mean, it's also indicative of who I am. I don't half-ass anything. I'm a whole ass kind of person.
Right.
So, right. It wasn't just like going to the gym and going to cardio classes with all the other moms. It was like, I'm going to go to CrossFit and I'm going to learn how to deadlift and I'm going to learn how to do all this shit. And I'm going to feel really, really strong. And that felt so good. And what I really loved was on max days when all the other tabs in your brain had to close out. Like everything had to come to this one singular point of focus in order for you to hit that max, right? On whatever rep. And so that I started to just like seek and need that feeling of that clarity and that oneness in my body, where my brain and my body were finally one and they weren't like warring at each other. Because in the religion, your body is really something to suppress, to ignore. It's where all your temptation to sin comes from, right? And so it's not, let's become one with your body. It's your job in this life on this earth is to overcome your body, right? And so, I mean, there were years, and I don't know if you know this, but in the Mormon religion, once you've gone through the temple and you've gotten married, you're wearing undergarments. And so I
heard about these undergarments. Please tell me about these undergarments. I've heard about it. Yes.
So they're like, so when you're taught about them, you're taught, you know, this is very much like the Catholic priest robes, right? It's a signifier of your covenants that you've made with God, but you're going to wear them under your clothes. And oh, by the way, they're also going to maintain your modesty. So that as long as you're covering these garments, you're not going to be wearing anything immodest. So there's like a top piece, like a shirt or a chemise or something, and it goes under all your clothes, including your bra. And it has like a little cap sleeve and a high neck to make sure you're not showing what we call the porn shoulders.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then the bottoms are kind of like bike shorts, I guess, except they go all the way to your knee. to make sure you don't wear anything shorter above your knee, basically. And so I had been wearing those since I was 20, actually 19. I think I went through the temple at 19. And so it had been years since I had actually looked at my body. Like I would get out of the shower, dry off, put on my garments immediately. Wow. Like that's part of your covenants. You're not going to walk around without them. And so here I am at 38, literally not even knowing what my body really looked like, because never would I like look at that. And forcing myself to go through these very physical experiences with my body in order to chase that like one moment of, okay, this feels good. This feels aligned. This feels safe. And that's what started happening with the running. I was running crazy long distances, and it would just feel, I'd hit that wall or that runner's wall where it's like all the other thoughts are gone and it's just me and my body and moving, and it's amazing. And from that, I started also fly fishing, which is a very, if you think about your traditional fishing, like literally most people don't even hold the pole, right? It's like in a holder and you're drinking a beer and you're sitting back, and that's called fishing. I don't know. I ain't never done that kind. But what I have done, it's like very physical, and you're literally in the middle of the river, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to be so lightning quick because the fish are just stupid fast. And so it's a very intense, like mind-body sport. And every time I did it, I had never done like yoga or meditation, anything that like really helped you center your body and be there. And I think those experiences made me realize, oh, it's safe to be in my body. I actually really like being in my body. And when I'm quiet enough, my body is telling me things. And by 3 or 4 months into fly fishing, I realized what my body was telling me was I was completely in love with my best friend.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the realization of, oh. And I'm sure like everyone has this story, right? Of like looking back and thinking, oh, now I get it. It's just that mine was really delayed.
Yeah. I mean, but it was, I mean, I was just like, I'm like, I feel you on that though, because, I feel like not that I came out late in life, but later than, I don't know. I don't want to say like the average bear, but like, folks are exploring and finding themselves around, whatever, 20, 21, college. I didn't even get to kiss a girl in college. Like right? I was still being a hoe with guys. Like I was hooking up with guys, but I was just like, but it took me such a long time. And then I worked in news, and then I was like, wow, like she's really hot. I was like in the newsroom, and I was like, wow, this person's so hot right now. And like, I could kiss her. I'd be down to kiss her if she kissed me. But like, I understand that conflicting notion, because then it's like, oh shit, now I know how I feel. Now I have to like figure out how I'm going to deal with the rest of the world and all
Exactly.
of this. And for you, it was your husband had actually found the text messages between you and your best friend at the time. And your best friend had reciprocated the same feelings, correct? And y'all are now together. Yeah. But he had found the text messages and was adamant at the time that you were choosing to be gay, which meant that you were choosing to not be with him. And in the process of trying to, and this was before entering conversion therapy. At this point, did y'all ever try to go to like couples counseling, or was this kind of the guise of couples counseling?
No, so kind of yes and no. So in the religion, you really go to your bishop first with anything, especially marital problems. You go to your bishop first. And we had not even had kids when I was like this doesn't feel good and I don't like it. And we were living in married student housing at BYU, which was basically these tiny little apartments, but for married students. Okay. And so that was everyone we were surrounded by. And you're in Utah, there's no air conditioning. So everyone has their windows open during the summer. I knew other women enjoyed sex. I could hear it with my ears.
Some folks are having sex out here.
And they're having fun.
And they're happy. They're happy.
This was
they
not
know
my
an orgasm,
experience.
damn it.
Right? So I took him to the bishop at that point and was like, I need help.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what do you think, Chad? And Chad was like, I don't know, I'm good. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was 22 and a guy. Of course he was good. Yeah. And so the bishop was like, I think you should go get counseling, Elena. And there's free counselors at BYU. So why don't you go there and see if you can figure out what your problem is? So I go to the free counselors at BYU, who are student counselors, basically. And BYU is owned by the Mormon Church. And so any other counselor in the world would have been like, well, honey, you need to masturbate. You need to figure out what you like. Yeah. This counselor can't say that because that's a sin. So all she could say is, I can't even remember what, for about 4 months. And then I gave up. So then for Chad to realize that I had had a very short affair, I'm laughing because neither she or I knew what the hell we were doing. So looking back on those 3 weeks, it was the equivalent of like 2 14-year-olds, right? Like
got you.
Nothing.
You're like, does this go here? Is this
exactly?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you.
So when he found out, then it was like, okay, the next day I was in my bishop's office. I was confessing, the whole thing. And at the time it was really looked at by all the parties, myself included, as Elena gave in to temptation. And so Elena needs to repent and fix this problem so she doesn't give in to temptation again. It was never, Elena might be gay. Right. This might not have anything to do with the church or with Chad or with anything else. Like maybe Elena needs to figure out her sexuality. That was never, no one uttered the word lesbian. It was never brought up. Wow. It was just, there was a temptation. It would have been the exact same thing if Chad had had an affair at work with a coworker, right? He gave in to a temptation. It was time to repent and come back to the fold, basically. Same thing. So, but I was really struggling. I was really emotional. I could not get a handle on my emotions. One day I'd be fine, reading my scriptures, saying my prayers, doing the whole thing. The next day I couldn't get out of bed. It was that kind of roller coaster, right? Mm. So we did go to this Mormon marriage therapist that lots of friends recommended. Everyone said she's fabulous. She saves everyone's marriage. We signed up, we went. And of course, she wanted to meet with me separately after our first meeting, right? Mm. And so what she told me was, I have so many adult clients now whose parents came out to them as kids and it ruined them. Do not ever tell your children this. You need to take this secret to your grave.
What?
And I really took that to heart. And that was the first time I thought about suicide, because it felt like, okay, if I need to hide this for the rest of my life, I couldn't even hide it for 3 weeks. Like, how am I going to hide this for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
So that was our quote unquote couples counseling. And I didn't go back to her because I didn't know what else she was going to tell me. And I was already like so freaked out. So when you ask, like, did we try counseling? Yes and no. Like we did to the extent of what we knew, to the extent of our knowledge. If I was in that situation again, it'd be totally different. Absolutely. But obviously you do what you know,
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for folks to know that are listening. If you're listening, you're watching, and you're not, and you're like shouting, well, why the fuck didn't you leave? Or why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I think it's important for folks to know that you were truly committed to that Mormon life in every sense of it. You tried your hardest to make sure that you checked all of the boxes. You were, a little backstory for folks. a guy that you were dating was Mormon, and he was the one that baptized you, but he wasn't the one that like taught you, the whole Mormon life. But it runs so deep that you really learned anything and everything from making sure that you pack for 25 years, worth in an emergency. Like, I want folks to understand.
You've done your research to be like, you're amazing.
I try. But I think it's important for folks to understand while they're feeling this, like they're sad for you in this moment, that I think it's important for them to know that you were very committed and that you didn't want to risk your place of getting into heaven. And then it was told that the way that you got into heaven was being with the opposite sex, not being with the same sex.
And it's not just heaven, because Mormons go to the nth degree, right?
Right.
So it's Mormons believe there are 3 levels of heaven. Yes. Mm-hmm. There's 3 levels of heaven. And none of this is secret. Like, this is all over their website. So in order to get to the highest level of heaven, which is when you can, with your partner, become the god and goddess of another world, right? So that's the highest part of heaven. So that's your reward. But the other reward is that it's the concept of being sealed eternally. So you're not just husband and wife till death do you part. You are sealed for the eternities. Like, forever. I knew what I was doing at age 20, but whatever.
Right.
So it is taught to you that if you are not sealed to your spouse, you are not sealed to your children. So if one of your children passes away, if you're not sealed, you will never see that child again. If you are sealed, you get to live with that child for the eternities. Wow. I have 4 babies. Like, to think about what was at risk. Mm-hmm. It's like hard to comprehend now. But it was my day-to-day life then. I was making all those choices and checking all those boxes so that I could be with my family for eternity. Yeah. Because what else would you want?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's almost that transference of energy of making sure that your kids are also doing the Mormon things, from whether it was masturbating and you told them that they would be gay. Like, I want folks to understand how deeply Mormon life you were, because what we're about to get into, I just want them to understand the depth.
It sets the stage. It definitely does.
I just want to set the stage for folks so they have a better understanding of what's really truly going on here. And, for folks also listening, keep in mind about that life, about that Mormon life, from canning meat to vegetables and beans for 25 years, because that's what you got to do. And you knew how to make bread from scratch, like grinding the wheat.
Flour.
Yeah, like I was like, whoa, that is a commitment, a true commitment. And you did anything and everything you could to make sure that you were in that right light and checking all those boxes. And then you guys found a guy in town that it was the bishop that recommended him, right?
It was a neighbor in the neighborhood. I was getting progressively more and more mentally ill. And there would be days that if someone stopped by to check in on me, I might just tell them too much, because it was all just coming out. It was decades of repression all coming out. And if I was in one of those days and I couldn't get out of bed and all I could think of was Kristen and how am I going to live this life without her, and a friend walks in and I would say, I've got to fix this. I can't live like this. My children can't see me anymore like this. And for her to respond with, oh, well, there's a guy in town that handles that. He can fix that. No problem. Here's his number. Call him. And when I called him, he said, yeah, I've been doing this for 40 years. Absolutely. It'll take 1 to 2 months. Come on down.
40 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
He was probably late 60s, early 70s.
Wow. Yeah. And for folks listening, this is where it became they recommended this person to quote unquote feel normal again, which was also known as conversion therapy. And they told you that he told you that it would take about a month or two. And you were so committed that you did it for 4 days a week, 2 hours a day for 6 months before having a series of realizations.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that you had in fact gone to the couples therapy counseling-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call that ish. I'll just call it ish. For, you said 4 months? Was that?
No, she was just maybe 3 or 4 meetings. I just couldn't do it. Like at that point, I was then rarely getting out of bed because that thought, it'll never go away. That concept of take this to your grave, and so the thought of making another appointment with her was just like too hard. So that didn't last very long, but yeah.
Can you walk folks through what you were feeling at this time? And if you feel comfortable, kind of what a session is like. I've always been so curious. I've always heard about it, but but what were your sessions like?
Yeah. So to set the stage, conversion therapy is any quote unquote therapy whose goal is to reduce the same-sex attraction and result in heteronormative attraction or a heteronormative gender identity. Either one, same process. And so it could be as invasive, like very physically invasive, and it could be quote unquote just talk therapy. So on the physically invasive side, people would think of like electric shock therapy. And that definitely happened 50s, 60s, 70s. At BYU, they were doing it in the early 80s. Like that was a very significant thing. But it has fallen out of favor. And now the most aggressive practices will use it's usually kids, and they'll force them to watch homoerotic images, and then they'll make them drink a drink like a charcoal drink that'll make them vomit. So they create that mind-body connection. And then you have just talk therapy, which is usually done by either someone who calls himself a therapist or a coach, or oftentimes a religious leader. And it can be simple things like every time you have a thought like that, snap the band on your wrist, or why don't you just talk to me every time you think you have an urge, right? Like it's a lot of talking, and a lot of the underlying concept is you're broken. And if you do XYZ, either pay me money or come to my congregation or whatever it is, if you do XYZ, I will fix you. There's a power differential, right? And so you have someone who's saying you're broken and I'm going to fix you. So anything that encompasses is conversion therapy. Not that I knew any of that when I walked in the door. Right. So he tells me something probably happened, probably in your childhood, that was traumatic. And it caused you to think that you are attracted to women. And if we can go back in your memory and heal that trauma, you won't be attracted to women anymore. And that sounded like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Sure. It's not that I gave into temptation. It's that something happened to me, right? And so sometimes the victim route is a really easier route to go. And so down that road I went, and that made sense to me. And so he had this technique where you literally sat in a leather recliner and you put the chair back, and he'd lead you through a breathing technique, and memories would come back. And they weren't memories like you never knew you had that memory. They were memories you knew, but you also remembered like what you were wearing that day, what you ate for lunch that day, what the weather was like that day, right? Like everything just came back really strong. So for the first 2 months, 3 months, I was going 2 hours a day. You'd sit in the chair, you'd do the breathing technique, the room would start spinning, your eyes are closed, he's asking you questions and you're responding. And we all have trauma, right? Like we all have shit that happened to us. Even my kids have shit that happened to them, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
we all have stuff that has to be processed. So by the end of my 2-3 months, I had a much better feeling about my mother, but I was still very attracted to women.
Right. Women are hotter, Doc. I hate to break to you. Women are hotter.
This is what's happening.
Right.
And so Did I tell you the cost? Because that's where things kind of came to a head.
That's the crazy part. I didn't even want to put your, I think I was just debating if I wanted to put your business out there like that. But that was, what was that, $270 a day?
A day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was 3 or 4 months into it, and my husband was like, nothing's changing, and this is a lot of money. And that's the dangerous part of conversion therapy is, one, it doesn't work. It's been proven time and time again to not work, that whole science thing.
Right, pseudoscience.
Right. But how it's framed is that if it doesn't work, that's because you're not working hard enough. You must not actually want to change. You must not be committed. And on the receiving end of that, not only is there all of that, but when you're from a religious background, it is, I am praying every day to God to make this work, and it's not working. I must be too broken. God must not want me in heaven. God is not answering these prayers. So it must be me. I must be the problem. That's where you start heading down that suicide road. And so when, the counselor, therapist guy is like, there must be something you're not telling me. Like, what else is there? There must be something, because everything you've brought up so far hasn't been the thing. And yes, I did. When I was 15 years old, I was assaulted, and I never told anyone, not my parents, not my husband, no one. Until that day, at age 37, telling this old white guy sitting across from me what happened. And he was overjoyed. This is what it is. This is what made you think you're attracted to women. We fix this, we fix everything. And so for the next 2 months, we only focused on that one memory, reliving it over and over and over again. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd get the kids off to school, I'd go to the gym and work out, because you got to do that, and then get to therapy, relive that memory for 2 hours, come home, and then it was kids coming home from school, get the homework done, get the laundry done, go to karate practice, do the piano practice, make dinner, wash the dishes, put the kids to bed, and then cry for hours because of what I had just done for that 24 hours, and then go to sleep and wake up and do it again. Like, if that's not a recipe for insanity, I don't know what is. That was insane.
That's intense.
So, yeah.
Wow. And on top of that, he was giving you journals and homework, and you had to journal, and you were doing homework. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to take in. And it's 57% of people who go through conversion therapy become suicidal. And as you mentioned, you became one of them. Mm-hmm. And it was your friend that was there to give you some powerful words. What were those powerful words, and how did that feel to have your friend at the time be there for such a vulnerable, critical moment in life when your friendships through the church were slowly dissipating?
Yeah, she was pretty much the only one left, but she had been there from the beginning. She had literally introduced me to my husband in college. Like, we had been best friends for 20 plus years. She was my CrossFit partner. Like, she was everything. And she could see, she knew it was not going well. She knew the whole story. She knew everything. And it was that day that I had a plan. I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I was going out to breakfast with her to essentially say goodbye. And I think she figured it out, and she wouldn't let me get in my car. She put me into her car, then brought me back to her house and bundled me into her bed and just let me cry for hours and said to me, you think taking your own life will stop the pain, and it won't. It just spreads it around. And I immediately thought of my 4 kids, and to think of any of them having a sliver of the pain that I had been experiencing was unacceptable. And so it saved me that day. That was a Friday. And by that Monday, there was basically my husband came in the room and said, I want a divorce. And I said, hell no. Do you know what I've been doing to stay in this marriage? marriage. Like I'm working my ass off. I'm literally losing my mind in order to stay in this marriage. And Michelle, that friend, came right over and tried to help us work it out. And it was in that conversation when she realized how bad things were in my head. And she turned to Chad and said, divorce is off the table. We're dealing with a mental illness. We need to get our help today. Yeah. And that was the privilege of my life, was that 3 hours later, I was in a real psychiatrist's office getting real help and saved my life.
How did it feel to have finally a licensed therapist be there to do the work with you? How was that moment for you to kind of have this, I'm finally in the hands of a professional that can help me?
Okay, just you asking that question is making me realize I felt such relief in that first week. And I really thought it was the medication, but no medication kicks in that quickly. Like almost all psych meds take like 6 weeks, right? So you asking that question is making me realize I think it was just being with a professional that made me realize someone is looking out for me. Someone knows how broken I am and knows how to help me. Yeah. That was an amazing sense of relief.
I mean, I feel like that alone is loads of stress off your shoulders, you know, and then y'all got divorced, you rented your own place, you were on your journey in this new chapter. Mm-hmm. How did that feel to kind of start this new chapter, living in your truth? I know the word authenticity kind of throws me off a little bit, but living in your truth and being your genuine self. How did that feel? Because I know then at some point you did talk to your kids, and I know you're a little nervous about that.
Yeah, because I joke around a lot that I'm trying to parent against my own ghost. I was a very intense, strict, anxiety-ridden parent. And of course, had no idea at the time. I thought all moms would fly off the handle at the drop of a hat. I thought that was just motherhood, but apparently it's not. So I was the one, like you said earlier. I have 4 kids. The 2 oldest are boys. The 2 youngest are girls, or at least that's their assigned gender. And when you're raising boys in the Mormon Church, by the time they're 8, you are talking about not viewing porn, not masturbating, keeping yourself morally pure. Like you're having those conversations constantly. And I remember my kid, we found out he had seen some porn when he was like 11. And I freaked out. I had this amazingly irrational reaction. And of course, looking back, it's like, oh, duh. But it was this concept of, okay, you could be going to hell. You might become gay. Like there were all these negative ramifications to that as a mom, it was just too overwhelming. And I freaked out. So now to think about walking into the room and saying to that same kid who's now 15, I'm gay.
Yeah.
And I know what you think about that because I taught you everything to think about that was horrible. And I put it off for a really, really long time until I heard through a mutual friend that my ex was planning to tell the kids for me. And then it was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah,
that is my story.
I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to be the narrator to my story, damn it.
That's right.
I got it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So that's what really gave me the kick in the ass to get that done. And my girls were, I don't know, 8 and 10 at the time. And that was super easy. It was no big deal. It took a while for them to figure it out, right? It took them watching my girlfriend and I behave as a couple for them to realize, oh, that's what she means by girlfriend.
Yeah. Right? It's so interesting. I feel like kids, they're like, oh, yeah, that's your girlfriend. But they don't understand that girlfriend equates to like lesbian or bisexual or gay or whatever. Like, it was interesting because with our son, when my wife, well, at the time we weren't even engaged yet, but we realized like, I don't think he knows that you're gay. Like, and it was so interesting. She's like, I've only had you around like my different partners that have been women. I've never had you around anybody else. And he's like, well, you were with my dad. And she's like, have you seen your dad and I together?
Right? Yeah.
Like, so that was like a whole other thing. So he had to like process this whole new form of information that had been surrounding him the whole time. Mm-hmm. How did your kids when they first had that aha moment of, oh, that's your girlfriend. Oh, that's what lesbian looks like. Mm-hmm. What were some of the things like? Did they have questions? Were they kind of like a little distant at first? Like, how did they take all of it in?
I do feel like for the teenagers, there was some relief because I think they had suspected for a long time. And my good therapist, my actual therapist, had taught me
the real one,
right? And she knew that at the time I wasn't out to my kids and I was really struggling with that. And so she knew that was part of my coming out journey, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, okay, imagine that your kid comes home from school and you're like, crazy mopping the floor. And they're like, Mom, is there something wrong? And you're like, no. Well, obviously there's something wrong.
Right.
But now you're making them question their perception of reality because they trust you and you're telling them there's nothing wrong. So they must not know how to perceive reality right. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. But then the other thing that she told me, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but this was a huge light bulb moment for me. My son, my oldest, was 15 at the time. And when you're Mormon, and you're a boy, you go off on a mission at 18. Mm-hmm. And so in my head, okay, here's the other part of that. The Mormon Church had come out with a rule in 2015 that if you have gay parents, you can't be baptized and you can't go on a mission.
What?
Yeah. So at the time I was like, I have to stay in the closet so that Jonah has the option of going on his mission. I can't be the reason that he doesn't get to do this thing that he really wants to do. And so I'm telling her that. And this therapist responds back and it was like mind blowing. She was like, he's not ever going to really come home, Elena. So yeah, you might be putting his mission at risk, but one, that's not your fault. And two, are you really not going to give him an opportunity to live with his real mom, his authentic mom? Right. You're going to take away that opportunity from him? Mm. And that was like, oh crap. It totally shifted the entire way I was viewing the situation. Instead of just, I'm going to hold it together and stay in the closet until Jonah gets home from his mission, it was, no, I got to hurry up and get out of this closet so that I can have an actual relationship with my son before he leaves on his mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I think in that moment, I thought about how we dealt with it and, how his friends talk about gay. And I felt like he was like very conflicted. And then he had like a Russian friend, so culturally it's already really fucked up shit. And so I was like, maybe you're not going to hang out with that friend too much. If they're just kind of like talking about hateful shit, give us a chance to, for you to at least understand what it is, learn your real mom, like you said, that same experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That I felt that. All right, let's play Two Truths and a Lie.
All right. Good, because I haven't opened my beer yet, woman.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you didn't drink it when you asked for your attorney? Did you ask for your
Did I? I don't remember.
I think it was the bird feeding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh goodness. So I'll let you go first.
Ooh, I get to ask you, or do I give you 2 truths and a lie and you have to guess?
Yeah, you give me 2 truths and a lie, and then I'll guess.
Okay, here we go. I have a tattoo that I got before I figured out I was a lesbian. I spent a summer in Greece when I was 15 years old. I still bake bread every week.
Ooh. You know, I think secretly I'm hoping you make bread every week. I'm like, you want to send it to LA? Let's see. You got a tattoo.
Do you think that's the lie or the truth?
Oh shoot. That's right. Ooh. I'm hoping bread is the truth, so I'll go with Greece. It's the lie.
I hate disappointing people. The bread is the lie.
Oh no, the bread is the lie?
Yeah.
Oh man, I just opened the beer. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I don't. No, I definitely don't bake bread. My girlfriend has definitely got, especially during COVID, she's now baking bread. And I will say I enjoy the TikTok videos of women baking bread. I can enjoy viewing it. I don't think I can do it myself.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, let me take another drink on that. That's so kick ass. Like, I'm like, that's a lot of boxes to check out. But making bread and like grinding it.
Right.
Let's see. My 2 truths and a lie. Let's see. I played college softball. I played college basketball, and I've gone skydiving. Ooh. Low key,
Okay.
if you probably look on my Instagram, you'd probably be able to tell.
I think I think the basketball is the lie.
Yeah.
I figured softball, but I was real struggling on the skydiving. Because did you go skydiving before you were a mom?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you ever gone skydiving or want to go
No,
skydiving?
because I've been a mom since I was like 12.
Well,
so no.
Yes, you have been a mom for quite some time, but now it's time to just have some fun. Be a little reckless.
That's what this is. Okay,
That's true.
have a beer like once a week, and that's
true.
my crazy time.
That's true. That is the crazy time. That's true. That is the crazy time. Wilding out. I love it. All right, it's your turn. 2 truths and a lie. Ooh.
Crap. Those are my good ones. I don't know if I have
those are really
Okay.
good ones. I was holding on to that bread.
Here we go. One of my kids is out. I am training a guide dog puppy for the blind. And I stopped fly fishing. One of those is a lie. Which one is it?
Ooh. Those are all really good. I'm gonna say, this is a tough one. Those are really good ones. You know, I'm gonna say fly fishing just because I feel like you haven't had time because you've been like busy, but I feel like you probably have made time for some fly fishing. I don't know, but I'm gonna say fly fishing.
I definitely still go fly fishing, so that was the lie. Yep.
That's what I thought. I was like,
I do.
Ooh, these are really good. These are really good. Which one was the lie?
No, I didn't stop fly fishing. I still go fly fishing all the time. So that was the lie. So what was my other one? I am raising a guide dog for the blind. Mostly my girlfriend is doing it. She's doing 99% of the work. Let's just be real. I pay the mortgage. That's about all I do. But that's fabulous. Except for this week, he got neutered. And so he has the massive cone of shame. The poor puppy. He lost his balls. And I feel so bad for him. I know.
No more balls for you.
I know. He's got stitches.
What's your guide dog's name?
He's Freddie. They name them on campus, and so we weren't able to name him. But yeah, he's amazing. He's really great.
Is it Freddie with the I or with a Y?
It's with a Y because they're dumb. When I spell it with IE, as it should be.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking. I was like, oh, I hope it's IE. Let's see. 2 truths and a lie. Let's see. I lost my virginity at 20, conveniently the same age. I can cook a crab broil, and I used to be a boxer.
The crab boil.
I surprised myself. No,
actually, I can make the crabs the lie?
I can make a crab boil.
What's the lie?
That I was a boxer. I know how to fight. Like, I go to boxing classes, but I've never gotten my like license or permit to box. But I've thought of,
is that real? Yeah. Are you screwing with me?
It is. Yeah. You have to like fill out a thing to like be able to like spar at gyms or whatever, so they at least know that you're playing at your own risk.
So you're like a registered weapon? Is that where like that joke comes from? These hands are like registered weapons?
These hands are registered weapons.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very real thing. But you know, so in my deep dive, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about you. I learned a lot about conversion therapy. And then there was this mysterious person. I don't know if I remember his name correctly, but is it Dave Matheson, who was a conversion therapy person, but then came out as gay. Have you heard about that? Or
there's many. There's
really
many. Yes. Most of the leaders in the United States and in the UK have come out in the last 10 years. Many of them have stopped short of saying that what they did was wrong. But almost all of them have come out as gay.
Wow. See, so I was surprised by that because he was like, I don't know, I had seen a bunch of different like interviews he had done, but then I was like, is this a parody? Like, is this real life?
Right.
It didn't feel real. I felt like
you're like, where's the Onion? This is the Onion, right?
Right. Let me check the credentials somewhere. Yeah. This feels like one of those like parody, like, what was it? Like Borat, like interviewing somebody, but it's like rooted in a little
like
bit
a mockumentary. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so he was like talking about how he came out. And so, but he like wrote a book about like being a manly man and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. But I didn't realize that is a normal thing that a lot of folks are starting to come out that were once a part of the church.
Very much so. Very much so. To me, there's like a few different camps. If you see a conversion therapy group that is very physically focused. For example, there's an operation in town, not 10 miles from my house, that takes teenage boys who think they might be gay out into the forest to chop wood and to camp and to be manly men, all with their shirts off all day. So you tell me that leader's not secretly gay and I will spit in your face. Like, that's ridiculous, right? And then you have...
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and you have like these other camps that are more religious leaders and religious focused. And I just think that's a different kind of in the closet in and of itself, right? Like any reasonable, semi-intelligent person is going to know that these facts and figures do not line up. But when you're tunnel visioned like this, then you're going to create the reality that works for your brain. And their reality is that I need to save these people and get them into heaven. They're not going to heaven right now because they're acting on their same-sex attraction. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure they get to heaven.
Oh my gosh. And, you know, for folks listening, it's illegal in about 20 states, but that's for minors, not adults.
And there's loopholes for religious leaders. In every one of those 20 states, there's a loophole for religious leaders.
How?
Because in the United States, we protect religion over lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, and I thought it was interesting that, you know, although the church says they never had any part in it and right. But I thought it was an interesting tidbit that the way that you were paying the conversion person, I don't even want to call him a therapist.
I know, right? Me too.
Yeah, that's like person.
It's gross.
A fucked up person. So you were paying the fucked up person, but you weren't paying him consistently because so he would like forget to like take your payment or whatever. So like he had mentioned to you that he forgets that you paid because you're the only one that comes to him that pays because the bishops take care of everybody else's bill.
That's right. And I had heard that in the fall. He told me that in the fall of 2017. It took me getting a divorce, living in my own house, going to therapy, real therapy once a week for a year before I finally made the connection. That's where my tithing money was going. We were full tithe payers, and tithing money is going to pay that jackass to harm people. Wow. Like that, you can, when you have that kind of a realization, you can like feel it clunk in your brain. Like, oh crap. Because that ruined my testimony of the priesthood. It ruined my testimony of tithing. It ruined a lot for me when I finally connected those dots. But like you said, that's how far deep in I was, that when he first told me that, it just went right over my head. Didn't even think about it. And I was just real proud that Chad and I could pay it ourselves.
Wow. That's so scary. And it's difficult to get that ban on a bill to begin with.
Yes.
And is it because of their connection with politicians and lawmakers and all these other things, or how?
Yeah. So it really comes down to... There's like two prevailing factors that are supposedly in the debate, but then I win that debate and it still doesn't get passed. So I don't get it other than plain old homophobia. But what they'll tell you is, one, freedom of religion, right? If my religion tells me that I can't get into heaven if I'm gay, I should have the freedom to pursue whatever help that I want. So they wrap that under freedom of religion. And then on the other side, you have freedom of essentially parenting. Can the government really tell parents how to raise their kids if the parent truly feels like this would help their kid in the long run? And they have a point, because we all know it is not easy to be gay in America, maybe because of thinking like that. And I can respect that kind of concept because I'm a mom. No one's going to tell me how to raise my kid, especially some government, right? But at the same time, we have laws in place when parents refuse to protect their kids. We as a society come in and do it for them. It's why we have seatbelt laws. It's why we have child porn laws. Like that's the point of those laws. So I can defeat those two arguments really quickly, but what we're still left with is politicians saying, absolutely not. In fact, in the state of Arizona, they just passed a bill. It's only it has one more committee to go. So it's not law yet, but they are actually pushing a law through that will make it illegal to put a conversion therapy ban on Arizona.
What?
So even if the voters want it, we can't vote it in because it's being prevented. It's a ban on the ban.
What in the fuckery ban hell is going on? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So that's going to take, you have to undo.
That's right.
The thing to.
That's right.
That's insane. It
really is.
Gnarly. That's
what Arizona thinks of their LGBTQ people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Arizona, man, that's
for reals. Like half the January 6th people came from Arizona, and I'm so not surprised.
Shit. Yeah. Oh my God. And it's wow. Yeah, because it's illegal for minors, but only in 20 states. But adults, it's totally possible to do that.
Yeah.
And that's
but
really
the fact
scary.
is it really is a worldwide issue, because you do have, like, Germany has it banned outright in the whole country, right? But they can literally put their kids on a train 2 hours to Poland, and those are some of the most intense conversion therapy camps ever. So Poland has the target on Europe. And then if you look over at New Zealand, and this is really hard to say because I really love New Zealand. I love their government. I love their native peoples, but they have the most, basically the camps that are there are for parents who, one, have a ton of money, and two, are very motivated to get their kid to be straight again, because their concepts over there are, if we subject you to enough violence by the hands of men, you won't be a gay boy anymore. So those boys are assaulted on a daily basis until they tell everyone, I'm straight. Can I go home now? I'm straight. So if we ban it, we can ban it in every state in America, but those parents will still send those kids to New Zealand or to Poland.
Wow.
Like, this is a humanity issue. This is not an American issue.
They're doing that in New Zealand?
Yeah. And I hate saying that because, again, like, I really love their people. And I will say they do have a ban on the table. Like, they are debating it. The prime minister finally uttered the words of, yeah, I think we'll talk about this. So they are making progress.
Yeah. I mean, but that's even going to be difficult just to socially take that off of the table, because it's a different world out there. It's a different culture.
Yeah.
And I think was it two other smaller countries that have banned it outright? But I think you said Malta and
like one more teeny tiny something.
Some other small country.
Yeah, Germany was the only, like, real power that's banned it nationwide. Right. Yeah.
Wow. That's that's scary and interesting.
I'll never forget being on a podcast interview with a woman from England and her telling me in her beautiful British accent, well, that's an American problem. We don't have that over here. And while we were on the interview, I Googled and found a conversion therapy camp walking distance from her house.
Oh, shit.
I know. I felt kind of bad about that one, but not really.
No, but it needed to be done. I think that she needed to be made an example of, because it happens everywhere. It happens in your own backyard. It happens to folks that don't even say that it happened to them because they don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
I had seen, I think it was in my conversion therapy deep dive. It was like a YouTube dark hole of crazy shit. I was like, I need to exit stage left. This is wild. But it was all of these people that had supposedly were supposedly no longer gay and had gone to conversion therapy and conversion, whatever. I need a word to substitute. But they were on the steps, and I was like, y'all look miserable, and you look like you're not living your authentic. Sorry, I know you don't like that word.
No, I
You
like that
look
word.
like you're living your true, authentic life. You're missing out on that experience. You're missing out on
Yeah.
that happiness, that pure joy of being able to wake up and show up as yourself.
That's right.
And
to let other people love you as your true self. Because if you can't be your true self every day and people say they love you and act like they love you, how can you really take that as true? Because you're not showing up as your true self. And so you really begin to question your value in life, period.
Yeah. That's so, I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot from the deep dive, but you're wanted to squeeze in this last question before our time. That was the quack of our time is up. But but I want to talk about the foundation. I know that with you, mindfulness was a part of the recovery process. And for folks that don't remember the intro, Pride and Joy Foundation is dedicated to reducing the rate of suicide and homelessness in the LGBTQ plus community. And we had talked about the suicidal rate for, folks that have gone to conversion blank.
Fuckery.
Fuckery. The island of fuckery, we'll call it. That's... I just want to punch every single one of them in the face for thinking that's okay. Like it's got me so hyped up. But for you, your journey has equipped you with creating a phenomenal organization. What was the deciding moment for you to turn Pride and Joy Foundation into a reality?
COVID. I had been, the TED Talk came out. I was speaking all over the nation. And then March 2020 hit and all these speaking engagements were canceled. And that was one thing, right? I think we were all face down on the couch in March of 2020. But then what started happening where I had been scheduled to come and speak at all these different schools. And then, of course, that was canceled. And the students at those schools were messaging me, DMing me, emailing me. I was sent home. My family didn't know. I had just started to live my authentic life, and now I'm in the closet again. Or now my dad found out and he wants to kick me out, and it's the middle of a pandemic. Or spouses saying the same thing. I've been living my life and I've been trying to make this work, and I've got 5 kids and I can't get out now. Like, what do I do? Right. And so every time I opened another message or another email, it just felt like I've got to do something to help these people. And so it just started as support groups and conversations. And then it becomes suicide prevention workshops that we did online. And then it just kind of got bigger and bigger and more wonderful. But what's been really great is that now people who thought they were very alone know that they're not alone at all. Yeah. There's a lot of us out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would the Elena of Pride and Joy Foundation say to the 15-year-old, 16-year-old Elena?
It is no mistake that I was assaulted at 15 and then I got baptized into the Mormon Church at 16. Right? I mean, I felt broken and violated, and to have a faith community tell me you can be dipped into the waters of baptism and emerge a completely new person. You leave your old life behind. That's why you're completely submerged, because it's to show a rebirth, right? And nothing sounded better to me than being reborn and leaving that assault experience behind. So if I could speak to the 15, 16-year-old me, it would be, go tell your dad. Go tell your mom. Go tell your big sister. Go tell your big brother. Get help. This church sounds great, and maybe it is, but it's not going to be what heals you. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Before we get out of here, we usually end on words of wisdom.
Ooh.
For folks that are listening, and you've dropped so many gems, you've dropped so many powerful pieces of everything. What would you say to folks that are listening, maybe they're having a bad day, or they're struggling with their journey, whatever the case is. What would your words of wisdom be for them?
Can you sort out the judgment from the reality? I think so often the inner critic in our heads is making our heads a not safe place to be. And so when you can sort out, this is reality and this is my judgment of reality, now you're on a path to being intentional about your own damn life and not letting circumstances or people or religions dictate that path. When you're able to sort out, am I judging? Are my parents judging? Is my religion judging? Whatever it is, right? Versus this is what reality is. Like I often teach, can we radically acknowledge reality? Because if I had, in that first visit with the therapist, with that student therapist at BYU, if I had been able to look around and say, I don't like sex, I am radically acknowledging that I do not enjoy sex with my husband, who I am sealed to for the rest of eternity. If I could have acknowledged that reality and then taken the path to resolve that reality, instead of being wrapped up in this judgment of, I should like sex, I should be a good Mormon mom, I should be this, I should be that, right? That makes all the difference. Whether it's just one bad day or 20 bad years, being able to sort the reality from the judgment makes all the difference.
That was perfect. That was spot on. I felt that. I felt that. My words of wisdom, I've had such a great time, and thank you for being here. My words of wisdom would be from you and what you exemplify, and just be brave. Wow, I have so much I want to say, and I'm like, how am I going to say it? I would say my words of wisdom, pay attention to your journey and allow yourself to be in that journey, and to also still be in the journey of your internal self, of who you are evolving to become, and know that there is always a safe space for you to go. And I think that'll be my words of wisdom.
Yeah.
For folks that are listening, if they'd like to get in touch and reach out, whether it be the foundation or any words, anything that, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So the website is prideandjoyfoundation.org. I play a lot professionally on LinkedIn, and I play a lot personally on Instagram. So my team is also on Instagram. So anything that you see that's personal and probably inappropriate, that would be me.
Nice.
So wherever you like to play, reach out. I love connecting with the audience for sure.
Yes, that's nice. Well, we might have to do an after dark if if you're up for it. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. This is so dope. I really appreciate you taking the time, and enjoy the basebal game. Enjoy
you too.
Pride night, Dyke night. Hands up.
That's right. I'm taking the kids. We're gonna be covered in rainbows. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes. Same here. We just got the kid a Dodgers shirt because we were like, I don't know if he's gonna want a rainbow Dodgers shirt, but we'll wear it. They're giving out like complimentary Dodger shirts. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Make it work.
Yeah. Nice. I appreciate you joining us. Y'all, make sure that you listen. There's always a new episode every Wednesday morning dropping. Make sure you check out every episode's blog. Every episode has a blog if you want to know more information, behind the scenes, some pictures, some extra stuff that you don't get to see or feel. It is all in the blog. Make sure you go to Instagram. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. at JAMPACKED Show. Stuff is what I meant to say. I'm so excited that I'm like flubbing over words. Make sure you go to @jampackedshow.com on Instagram as well as Twitter. I'm on Facebook as well. We've got a group on there, Jampacked. Go ahead and find us. And then, of course, on YouTube, youtube.com/jampacked. Y'all, I appreciate y'all for listening, for joining in the conversation. If you want to continue the conversation, I am also on Discord. Make sure you reach out on Discord and we can continue the conversation of any episode that you'd like. Y'all, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you as well. Have a good evening, everyone. Have a great day. Make it work. Gratitude is attitude, all that good stuff. And we will see you on the next Jam Pack. Woo!